Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Faces Behind the Franchise. My name's Colin, and I'm the head of the franchise for GoCruise and Travel. Today, we are very privileged and lucky to be joined by the head of the British Franchise Association, the CEO, Pip Wilkins, who is going to be discussing and sharing her insight into franchising and why it's really, really important when you're looking for a organisation to join and that they're associated with the British Franchise Association, which obviously we are. So it'd be great to have her on our show today. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking all about franchising and why it's really, really important to be connected with an ethical association. So, Pip, for anyone who's new to franchising, what is the BFA and what is the role that you play in the industry?
So the British Franchise Association is a trade association. So we were set up back in 1977, basically by a small group of franchisors that wanted to make sure they could differentiate themselves in the marketplace as kind of an ethical business format franchise that really looked after their franchisees. So we've been running for almost 50 years, and our role is to protect franchising in the UK market, to make sure that legislation doesn't come in and impact franchise businesses, but to really make sure that brands that are doing franchising in the UK market are doing it ethically, and that franchisees, people that are looking to invest, have access to the right information so they can go through their due diligence journey in a really positive way.
Oh, brilliant. And I think it's a whole framework then that you're saying that you're kind of looking after the franchisors to make sure that they've got the best support then for the franchisees. So on a day-to-day basis, what does that look and feel like?
Well, so for day to day, we do lots of different educational things. So, as being part of the industry, that a lot of what we do is shared know-how and best practice. I don't believe that anyone is the finished article. Everyone's got something to learn. So, what we do is facilitate the sharing of best practice between franchisors, franchisees, advisors, and suppliers. We run a whole realm of educational events. We do promotion for the UK franchise industry. So really trying to get it out there that this is what franchising and business format franchising is. Things that you need to know about your due diligence journey, how as a franchisor you build and grow. We have our qualified franchise professional program, which is all about individual accreditation and education. So yeah, just loads of different stuff to bring the community together and help people kind of learn and grow.
No, that's brilliant. And as a brand, GoCruise and Travel have been endorsing the BFA and been part of the BFA for quite some time now. I've just recently completed my QFP, so I feel like I'm fully fledged into the franchising world and network. And I think it's really important when anybody wants to go into franchising that they connect themselves with a franchise that's associated with the BFA. And you've mentioned quite a lot of benefits to be part of the BFA anyway. And is there any other different organisations in this space, or are you kind of leading the way for the key part of franchising?
Yeah, from a franchisor perspective, it comes back to the education piece for me. So as I said, I think that everyone has something to learn and develop. So being able to access the BFA community, I think, is really important for a franchisor. From a franchisee perspective, it's a similar thing. We're here to help franchisees with their due diligence journey, to help them identify what's the right fit for them in the marketplace, and to really support that learning journey of what is franchising, what opportunity is going to work for me, and how should I go through the process of selecting the right franchisor to partner with, because obviously franchising isn't a quick I'm going to build a relationship and buy one. There's quite a lot that goes into that selection process between franchisor and franchisee, and for us it's about giving franchisees the tools to be able to go and ask the questions, to speak to the franchisor, and really delve into what they're going to do every day and how it's going to work for them.
Okay, so we've talked about why it's important for a franchisor to be part of the BFA and the connections with that. What are the benefits for a franchisee if they saw that GoCruise and Travel have the brand connected with the BFA?
So it gives someone that's looking to invest in a franchise an element of comfort, I believe. So if you're displaying the BFA brand, it's not a case of a franchisor can join the BFA just by showing up and saying, hey, here's my money, I want to get in. We put them through quite a rigorous process. So we look at franchisors, the brand, we make sure that they've protected their trademark. We look at their franchise agreement to ensure that the brand is trading ethically in the marketplace, and that their franchise agreement stacks up against the European Code of Ethics for franchising. We look at their operational practices and their marketing materials. We speak to their franchise network to understand that the franchisees are happy and that they're getting the level of support that was promised and that the business is really financially viable. So we do quite a lot of checks. So when a franchisee is looking to buy a brand or invest in a brand that has BFA status, it means that we've done our due diligence on that brand. Doesn't take away from the fact that a franchisee should also do their independent due diligence, because then it's about making sure that it's the right fit for them, and that partnership's really going to work. But once they're on board, if they've invested with a brand that's a BFA member, they can join the BFA in their own right as a franchisee, and they can tap into a portfolio of benefits that are very similar. Franchising is about that collaboration and shared best practice, and we see franchisees share best practice within particular networks. What we do as an association is provide the opportunity for those franchisee members to connect with other franchisees in their local area. So what we see a lot is, into franchising trade, if you like. Why would you buy from outside of franchising when you can buy from within it? So we see franchisees partner up, recommend each other's businesses, but also promote and use each other's services.
No, and that's brilliant to know. And I think it is about the community, isn't it? And the partnership and your connections and the network that people then start to build the trust and the engagement. And I think that was something that we were really keen to ensure we continued as a brand for GoCruise and Travel, because there is many different travel firms on the market now that you can start a business with, and then you can grow and you can develop. And we kind of wanted to have a unique selling point that actually we're associating with the BFA, we're following the ethical guidelines, and we're making sure that we are looking after our franchisees in the best possible interest for them as well as for us. So when we look at your perception on franchising, have you always been in the franchising industry, Pip, or is this something that you've kind of fell into, or how did your journey begin?
So I've been a part of the association and with the BFA for more than 25 years. So it was a kind of second proper job, I suppose. So pre the BFA, I had done some stuff which is really random, nothing to do with franchising. And so I fell into franchising quite by accident, which I think a lot of people do. And my journey started very much from an administrative perspective at the BFA. I've done every role within it, from events to standards to time out on the road with members, business development, a bit of sales, into operations, which culminated 10 years ago this year in my appointment to the role of CEO. So yeah, franchising has been something that cut me open, I bleed BFA. It's been a very long journey. But I think once you get into the franchising community, you kind of get this franchising bug, and we see lots and lots of people stay in it for many years. They might move around different businesses, but quite often you're dealing with, the owner and founder. So yeah, I've kind of grown up in franchising, but I've seen a lot of people go on a similar journey. So I think, yeah, once you're in it, you tend not to leave it.
No, that's it. You're in it for the long haul, which is good, which is very, very good. So you've mentioned there that obviously it's all around the support and what you can do and ensure that everything is ethically focused. How do you maintain that for your members? So it's great to be a part of it, but how is there regular checks that you have to keep in play to make sure they're following your guidance?
Yeah, 100%. So brands go through what we call a re-accreditation process. So every 2 years, a franchisor would go through a process where we resurvey their franchise network to make sure the franchisees are happy with the support, with the leadership and culture, with the value and rewards. It's quite an intensive sort of 50-question survey that the franchisees complete anonymously. And we will look at the feedback. The franchisor also sees it. So if there are areas that maybe they need to improve on, or the franchisees aren't feeling happy about, they would get that so they can implement change. But a lot of franchisors will go through that process annually anyway, within their own networks. But we will look at whether the franchise agreement still complies. We look at whether there's churn within the franchise network, and if so, why. So yeah, it's not a case of once you're in the BFA, you're in for life. We do work with brands all the time, to make sure that they are still compliant and upholding our standards.
And is there any myths around franchising? Is there anything that actually, if a franchisee is signing up to, say, Go Cruise and Travel, for example, as a franchise, is there any myths that you think actually don't exist anymore with franchising?
Um, I think that, back in the day, people used to say that franchisors were just looking for, somebody that had the money, um, wanted to be a part of their network. And I really don't think that's the case. I think the thing that people don't realize, particularly in the UK market, is how selective both the franchisor and the franchisee are. We talk about it like it's a bit like, marriage, isn't it? You have the kind of dating bit that you go through, which is the due diligence process. But this is a relationship that is going to be anything from 5 to 25 years. And so I think the franchisor and franchisee are much more selective than people think. It is very much them working together to see whether it's the right fit for them, whether their values align, and that's been the big shift that we've seen probably in the last 10 years. Is that it's very much about what the franchisors um, overall strategy is. What does it look like from a sustainability perspective? How do they support their franchisees? How do they value them, and are they truly aligned in terms of their personal values and attributes? And that's changed a lot, I think, in the recruitment process. Franchisors will know what their ideal franchisee persona is, but I think franchisees also know what they're looking for now in a franchisor, and how they want that franchisor to support and look after them during the lifetime of the relationship. Um, so, people think that franchising is really expensive and that it's not accessible. There are more than 1,000 franchisors in the UK market. There is something for everyone. It isn't a case of, franchising is just fast food and high street brands. You are a living and breathing example of that. People wouldn't think that Go Cruise was a franchise. People don't recognize the fact that, brands like Dino Rod, Snap-on Tools are franchise opportunities. It's brands that touch people's lives all of the time, and they won't necessarily know that that is a local business person that is working alongside a national brand.
That's it, and it's popping up everywhere around the UK because it's obviously massive, and the industry leaders are in the States, and it's kind of really coming into play into the UK. And what's kind of your top tips to a someone who's wanting to join a franchise business? What top tip would you give me if I was wanting to join Go Cruise and Travel? What would be the one thing you would say you need to look out for?
You find something that you love. Franchising is a touchable, feelable, pokeable thing. You can go and look at different things, but you don't need previous experience in a brand in order to be able to do it, because you're going to get the training and support to enable you to do that. So it's not about going, well, I've always been in banking, so I need to find a finance franchise. It is very much what motivates me, what really floats my boat, what do I want to do every day? Because this is something you, like I said, you're going to do for between 5 and 25 years. So you want to find something that makes you want to get out of bed every day, makes you excited, and something that you really, really want to do. So once you've found that, it's about then looking at the different opportunities in that specific arena. Because there will be lots of different variations of it and different types of it, and then finding the people that you really gel with. It's a long partnership, so you want to make sure that you get on with your franchisor, that you like the people that are going to support you day to day. It's all about relationships. So for me, find the people that work for you, but find something that you're really passionate about.
That's it, and you've just took the word right out my mouth, passion, and that's what it's completely all about, and that's what we kind of um, really try to install in our franchisees and joining us. You've got to have a passion for holidays, travel, passion to bring things to life, and cruising is definitely essential in our package. And I just want to say thank you, obviously, for spending the time with me. And one kind of final question: what excites you for the future with franchising? What's the next top things going to be coming out of it?
Do you know what? It's a scary but exciting thing, and that's AI. I think that there is so much that it can do to support franchising. You know, at the end of the day, franchising is all about people. So you're never going to take away that people element. But I think it gives franchisors and franchisees a huge opportunity to really streamline some internal stuff. Some of the kind of more mundane tasks that then will allow them to use their people to connect more with the franchisees. So it's just going to give brands more time to spend with people. So getting it to do the kind of more technical tasks, I think is a really exciting option. But it's also, growth. We've seen franchising continue to grow and thrive for more than 25 years since we've been doing our kind of survey in the UK market. We're seeing multi-unit franchising and franchisees building bigger businesses. So I think as franchising is maturing in the UK market, we're really growing up and finding our own. And I think, yeah, there's loads of things. I can give you a proper list, but at the moment, AI is the kind of real buzz thing in franchising, and seeing how brands are going to embrace it and embed it is really exciting.
And it's interesting you say that, because we're seeing um, younger demographics interested in us. So we're seeing like the 30 plus years now coming into the arena of wanting to set up a travel business. We've never normally had that before, because it's always been at the stage of life from maybe a retiree or looking to switch careers completely, but actually to start a business. Being entrepreneurial and to flow into that has really generated. But I suppose that's the change in the world, isn't it, with the social media and how things come across. Us having a go at doing a podcast today, so it's all about our changing communication, which is brilliant. So I'm sure there's going to be an awful lot of excitement.
I do think that the next generation are going to be really exciting as well, because they're bringing something different to franchising. They are really leaning into the franchisor for the learning experience. You don't need to have a degree to become a franchisee. So we are seeing people looking at it at a much earlier stage, and some great testimonies and stories of franchisees in their early 20s that have it's been their first job. They've then gone on to work for a franchise and then invest in one. So I think we're going to see more and more people access franchising at a younger age. And they're going to bring a whole different energy and a different understanding of tech and systems and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I agree with you.
No, fantastic. And obviously they need to come my way to make sure they're signed up with the right travel business to join Go Cruise and Travel, right? Fabulous. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, and I hope everyone's found it really useful. And thank you ever so much, Pip, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, that was such an informative, great episode, and I'm hoping you'll have taken a lot of key elements out of it with what franchising is about. For me, it just cements the importance of the relationship of what we do and why we partner with the British Franchise Association, and how we follow their guidance. We make sure that we've got an ethical process in place for our franchisees, and actually we're giving them a really good pillar of support to strengthen their ability to run a fantastic and successful cruise and holiday business with us. So thanks, Pip, once again for your time today. So if you wanted to find out more about joining Go Cruise and Travel and what we offer, please make sure you click on the link in the description, and then you'll be taken through to our website and find out our information on our prospectus. But it'd be great to have a discussion with you.